International community alerted over plots to reappoint Professor Yakubu as INEC chairman. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. So good to have you guys back here again. Thank you once again for your continuous massive and huge support to this channel. God bless you, my people. We really appreciate you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking as well. We really appreciate you. We say God bless you. Yes, my people, as always, we're back again with latest and most authentic happenings in the country. INEC 2023 is just around the corner, and INEC has announced the date. Some persons are insinuating that INEC is really behind something. That this is the first time that INEC will give a notice of over 800 days to the presidential election. INEC has released the date that the presidential election is going to hold February 18th of 2023. But right now, guys, we know that the tenure of the INEC's chairman, Yakubu Mahmood, is running out. And before the Edo State governorship elections, there were allegations and also speculations that INEC is doing all it can to be on the good books of President Muhammadu Buhari so that he can be reappointed as the chairman of the commission. Anyway, right now, the news we're getting is that international communities have been alerted. We know before the two elections were held, that's the Ondo State and Edo as well. The international community raised concerns and also spoke that they are monitoring all the events, everything going on. And they are ready to place people on visa ban list. Anyone that commits election malpractice would go into the visa ban list. Right now, they are still watching what is going on, even with INEC. We'll bring you more details shortly, guys. But before we do, please, if you haven't given us a thumbs up yet, do go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Click on the like button. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Yes, my people, we'll go straight into the news now and grab all of the details. Among the three most important ethical expectations of public office holders, one that stands out most is the admonition to do not harm. But in the 5 years that Professor Yakubu was honored with the privilege to do no harm to the electoral process in Nigeria, out of lack of courage and fear of powers that be, he has harmed some of the vital entrails of election management in Nigeria and lost the trust and confidence of the Nigerian people. He harmed the voter register by disabling the smart card readers which the Professor Jega regime introduced and achieved over 54% efficiency at inception, reducing it to 19% in the 2019 election, and had further caused its use to decline to 16% after the Nasarawa by-election. For those who do not understand the electoral importance of this harm, it is important to make it clearer. Under Professor Jega, when people voted, out of 50 million voters, at least 26 million must be accredited using the smart card reader to confirm the biometrics of every voter who presented a PVC. But tragically, when Professor Yakubu came, out of 50 million voters, less than 8 million voters were verified with the smart card readers in 2019 before voting. What is the implication? It means that during the period of Professor Yakubu, over 18 million unverified voters could vote, allowing corrupt politicians to buy voters' cards from the palliant INEC officials and making it possible to use as much as 18 million mercenary voters where they like, a very serious harm to the electoral process. Worse harm was done under Professor Yakubu to Nigerians' national integrity, the credibility of the electoral process, and the sovereignty of Nigerian voters when Professor Yakubu, under this leadership of INEC, accepted funds and training from Europe, America, and other international organizations that fund the development of the democratic process. The funds these organizations provided were used to train INEC staff on how to obtain and transmit election results from polling units to a central server. Despite these international collaborations, he later denied that INEC had the capability and equipment of a central server, despite the fact that the International Federation for Electoral Systems specifically sponsored the training of RATEX, who are specific technician personnel to carry out the transmission of election results for the 2019 general elections. On the credibility and integrity of INEC and Nigeria, Professor Yakubu further harmed fidelity of elections when equipment such as Z-pads, transmitters, and ancillary information technology machines produced by INEC for the use of the trained personnel were exposed through the Due Process Office and Audit General of the Federation, as well as the 2018 and 2019 Budget Acts, all of which exposed details of committed federal funds that were appropriated and spent on those equipment that INEC procured, used during the 2019 general election, and is also currently used for both elections that were conducted in Edo and Ondo, with the real-time transmission of polling unit results significantly impacting both elections. The most grievous harm committed by Professor Yakubu is the denial of these same personnel and equipment, material facts that were shared by international partners, local ad hoc personnel who were paid to be trained and later used the equipment, as well as observers who witnessed these activities. Yet, he repudiated the entire endeavor after use. When the Commission was required to render accountability for these activities during the 2019 general election, all because Professor Yakubu took a partisan position to suppress election results that were stored in the INEC server, having been transmitted by the trained INEC staff using the acquired equipment. By repudiating the server and its material fact of the aggregation of the preferred choices of Nigerians as expressed in their ballots, he undermined the sovereignty and the general will of Nigerian voters when he arbitrarily swept aside their votes as transmitted into the INEC server. After these willful, harmful actions deliberately committed under Professor Yakubu, he hibernated in arrogant disdain. When Nigerians sought explanations, instead he put forward a legal team that were more forceful in defending the repudiation of an INEC server than in producing concrete evidence on the election result they offered to the public. Despite these unattainable and indefensible actions for an election umpire that was expected to be neutral, he is now campaigning at a late hour for electoral reforms in order to regain appointment as INEC chairman for a second term in office. Why is he embarking on this abnormal campaign? To execute his deceit, he has decided to use the idea of introduction of e-voting and other tricks that he championed previously before the 2019 election, but later denied when he was required to demonstrate their effectiveness. As many Nigerians will recall, he was almost at the point of denying that he conducted the 2019 election if it will help to erase the use of the e-transmitters from Nigerians' mind. To further his current interest to obtain reappointment, reports have it that he has budgeted millions in different currencies for this purpose and plans to use a section of civil society organizations to step up the campaign for his reappointment in a more aggressive manner in the days ahead. The message of the campaign will be that since he wants to introduce e-voting and e-transmission of election results in 2023, he should be given another term. In the coming days, Nigerians should watch out on major television and radio stations for this campaign by his proxies working through CSOs and other individuals recruited for this purpose, who will be making these arguments for a second term for Professor Mahmood Yakubu. He said to be telling people he wants to deceive that he is not interested in the second term, but close associates argue that it is a big lie because he is known to be deploying millions into his reappointment project and has bought cars for some individuals who claim they have influences within Aso Rock that can assure him a second term. Unlike his predecessor, Professor Jega, he lacks the integrity to rely on his credibility and performance. Whereas Professor Jega, despite his good performance, told people around him that he was not interested and went ahead 2 months to the end of his tenure to write formally to the newly elected president, Buhari, that he was going back to the classroom at the end of his tenure and that the government should take notice and take steps to appoint another chairman and commissioner. This is a man of impeccable character and integrity, but Professor Yakubu, who should be preparing to hand over, is rather campaigning for a second-term reappointment using schemes such as fixing a date for the 2023 general elections and promising e-voting in transmission of results and so on when he has lost the confidence of the Nigerian people. The recent election in Edo and Ondo demonstrated that efficacy of the real-time result transmission equipment which Yakubu denied possessing after the 2019 general election. The efficacy of the equipment shows how badly Professor Yakubu harmed the choice of voters by hiding the INEC server after the general election. Did the server suddenly drop from the moon now? Clearly, by demonstrating how much the server could have aided the transparency of the 2019 election, he evidently lied to Nigerians. The þløt, which he demonstrated after the general elections but then allowed in recent election because pressure was brought upon him by interested political actors, shows how unreliable Professor Yakubu can be and why democracy in Nigeria would be in dangerous hands if left in his care for another 5 years. President Buhari should be mindful of his place in history and should not make a mistake of reappointing this team of Professor Yakubu back to INEC. The reactions of Nigerians against the mention of Loretta Oneche is a good example of how Nigerians feel let down by the president, and he therefore has to be careful about the choice of people to be appointed into INEC. Otherwise, what is left of his now suspect integrity will be shredded to the lowest nadir before the international community. In the same vein, there are Nigerians even in the electoral management body who are still serving, that at the main mention of their names will bring overwhelming pundits to President Buhari across the country as perfect choice suited as chairman and commissioners deserving the office of professional empire that will also bring goodwill to the president. A leader is as good as those around him, and President Buhari should be careful because selfish and corrupt politicians that Yakubu has been seeking their support to get a reappointment from are only trying to graft a mole into INEC, the only institution that can rescue or destroy the consolidation of democracy in Nigeria. After 5 years of experimenting with shaky and unreliable hands of Professor Yakubu, it is time to look for trusted and reliable election managers who will be overwhelmingly accepted by Nigerians if future elections will not bring angry Nigerians into the streets. Yes, my people, Professor Mahmood Yakubu is seeking a second term. Let's hear your take on this. Thank you once again. Please, if you haven't given us a thumbs up, do go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Click on the like button. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Till I come your way again. Bye for now and God bless.